until he burst onto the scene, really, with his quite unforgettable Loos house, or the house on the Michaelerplatz, which was the first major building that he created in Vienna, and quite unforgettably so, because both the press and the public reactions were quite virulent, and to the point that the Emperor Franz Joseph asked for the back windows of the Hofburg, which faced the Michaelerplatz on the other side, to be permanently drawn, just so that he wouldn't have to watch that monstrosity. And the Loos house established really his reputation in Vienna for a number of reasons. And
well, let's just stop there for a minute, because we're going to come on to his later works. I think the Michaelerplatz is a very interesting, very interesting description so far. But just let me come back to you, Eva, and just ask whether, I was going to ask you how he's influenced your work, but I want to ask whether he's influenced your work and what you think about his work, since we've heard of how he was received 100 years ago. How do you receive his work?
I think now I admire him greatly, but even the emperor had to close the curtain or draw the curtains to stop himself looking at his work. I wonder how many curtains Prince Charles has to cover up. How many curtains does he have to draw? Anyway, going back to his work, yes, of course I was influenced by his work, like anybody living in Prague or having spent some time living in Prague as a young architect. I have to say my first period, as an architectural student was not terribly full of admiration for Adolf Loos. I was a daughter of an architect. My father did belong to the generation of those people who went much further in his in the kind of functionalist thinking. He was much more minimal than Adolf Loos has ever been. I mean, our interior, which my father was redesigning all the time because we kept constantly moving. Either we were thrown out by the Germans or by the Russians or by the communists. So my father was constantly redoing whichever flat or house we might have been in. But it was always very minimal. So I mean, the decorative approach and fussy and rich interiors of Adolf Loos in my young age were really something which I didn't approve of at all. On the other hand, when I started growing up and when I started doing interiors, and I think it is the age which I think it makes you more tolerant, but also the age when you start really understanding the work and when you appreciate how hard job it is to do the interiors. And in that case, so somehow you start looking at the materials, start looking at the way how he used them, you start looking at the concept, because he was quite extraordinary. I mean, his framing of the doors or openings and his way how he was approaching all the openings in the wall, his theory about the wall becomes or belongs to architects, and so on. Even if he did not achieve what he preached,